Hey folks, Quill18 here, and welcome to Let's Try Blood Bowl. So Blood Bowl is based on a board game, which was based on the Warhammer 40k's version of football. That's right, so your classic Space Marines and Orcs and Chaos Dwarves and all those guys have decided to settle their differences on the football pitch and are in for a bloody good time. So this is a tactical kind of sports theme game that is really quite good. There's lots of different teams to choose from. There's the full team management aspect in that you have to assemble your team, purchase your players, and then go and do battle with other people. Here I am playing just a game against the AI because I'm still very much learning the game. But the big news about this is a few months ago, a bunch of the huge YouTubers in the Game Station, which is now known as Polaris, got together and did a huge tournament out of Blood Bowl. I think there was 8, maybe 10 of them at the time, and it was fantastic to watch. Well, they are doing it again. We're talking about Total Biscuit, Dodger, Northern Lion, Yogg's Cast Strippin, Force SC, Unit Lost, Tales of Lumen, and Knorr, and of course this whole thing is organized by the wonderful Wow Krendor. And I believe that is 9 people, unless I missed a name in there. And the 10th person filling out the roster this year will be yours truly. That's right, I'm going to be playing Blood Bowl with these giants of YouTube. And most of these have played the game before, so they're going to be in a much better position than I am. Now, I have played the board game once when I was in university. It went very badly. And I have fiddled around with the computer game before as well, but not for some time and not to an extensive amount. So right now I'm playing a few practice games with the AI just so I can get used to how the UI works and what some of the rule mechanics are. And then I'm going to go in and challenge a few people head-to-head so that I can get some experience playing against human beings before we go into the actual tournament. So, yeah, it is a football, American style or rugby style, more than actual soccer type of game. You carry the ball around, you can pass it to people, and you're trying to score by bringing it into the end zone. But the whole thing is couched in absolute extreme crazy violence. Because depending on what kind of team you're playing, sometimes you might just ignore the ball altogether because you kind of win by default if everyone on the other team is dead. And again, there's a full management aspect to this game. You purchase your players, you develop them, you level them up, you do all those things, you name them, you love them, and they can get killed in mid-game, or even if not killed, they can get horribly injured and take out of the play forever. This is serious stuff, and it is a hell of a lot of fun. And some teams will play very agile games. I'm actually playing against a Skaven team, the Skritz Razor Claws right now. My Orc team is known as the Brussels Stouts. They're mean, they're green, and they smell vaguely of sulfur. So my strategy is to generally be kind of on the toughish side and then trying to inflict some hits. Skaven is actually a very fast team with relatively light people. So they're fast and agile and are pretty good at getting past my line and then theoretically throwing the ball at that point. That being said, I don't think the AI is particularly good at this kind of game. Now, I did make a couple of misplays right at the start of the game. I didn't expect them to be quite as fast as they were, which is why I'm playing these practice games. So they were able to sneak past me and easily score a touchdown in the very first half. But this video is starting up with us being in the second half here. So I also didn't realize that you had to name your players when you purchased them at the time. So I didn't get a chance to rename these guys, which makes me very upset. But when we finally get to making our teams for the actual online tournament, I will make sure to name everyone. Now, I'm not 100% sure who I'm going to be playing. I'm kind of crossing my fingers for the Orcs because they're hilarious in the Warhammer 40k universe. Like, Orcs in Warhammer 40k are actually psychic, and they don't realize they're psychic necessarily, but all their technology works through their psychic powers. Like, it's all held together with duct tape and spit. There's no reason any of this stuff should work, but the Orcs believe it should work, so it does. Also, they think that, like, red cars go faster, so they paint their cars red, and because they believe that red goes faster, red cars go faster. The Orcs in this universe are just fantastic. I love them. So I'm sort of hoping I get them. They're a relatively simple team, but also relatively sort of strong overall. You can play a pitching or a throwing game, passing game, I should say, if you want, by hiring some goblins. You can get some trolls if you want, like a big bruiser, also the ability to literally toss a goblin. Like, that's a valid play in this game. Your goblin goes over, picks up the ball. The troll goes over, picks up the goblin, and throws the goblin. Now, it's fraught with possibilities for things to go horribly wrong, but at the same time, it's very fun. Now, the game has a fair amount of luck involved. Every move you do, every time you throw a block, right? Like, you know, you go and you try to just smash someone, that you have to roll a die, and on the die, there's a lot of possibilities on there that could actually be quite bad for you. So it's a game about sort of playing probabilities and mitigating luck. Sometimes the dice will just screw you, but generally speaking, what you're trying to do is figure out, in this situation, okay, what are my odds of getting a good throw? What are my odds of getting a bad throw? Do I want to do this? Now, also, whenever you get a bad throw, the bad thing is not necessarily like, oh, you tried to, you know, bowl someone over and instead you got knocked back and knocked down to the ground. I mean, being knocked down to the ground is bad enough, but it also ends your turn, and that's the way it normally works. It alternates turn. I have my turn where I get to move all of my characters. Then when my turn ends, you have your turn where you move all your characters. If the very first move I do on my turn ends up resulting in turnover, like I fall down or drop the ball or fail to pass the ball, for example, then my turn is just over, which can end it really prematurely. There are some things you can do to mitigate that. There's the ability to purchase rerolls. So if you do, you know, roll a block that turns out really bad, you can reroll it. I believe you can only do one reroll per turn, though, so you really have to manage things quite a bit. You can see I've got a lot of rerolls in this game because, one, in my team I ended up with 3 permanent rerolls, but also the team I'm playing up against has a much higher team value than I do. You start off with 1,000, I don't know, 1,000 worth of team value. I guess it's about like $1 million is what you start off with, which calculates to 1,000 team value. And the team I'm playing against is like 1,300 or 1,400 team value. I guess about 1,300. So I had enough to buy a couple of rerolls. And yeah, I guess this is my second game, so I'm just over 1,000. So anyway, I got a couple of rerolls and some cheerleaders or something like that to help me in the game. So I had lots of reroll options and things. And I'm still, you know, I'm experimenting to try to figure out, like, okay, exactly, like, what kind of numbers are we talking about, how likely it is to do the damage. I've been doing lots and lots of reading and research because there's a fair amount of math and probability behind it. You know, it's like, oh, it's 14.5% chance that this will happen or whatever. And some of them are straight up, like, the chance of rolling one block die and having it come up that the attacker gets knocked down, which is definitely the worst die. Well, it's 1 in 6 on one dice. And if you roll 2 dice, which is what you're seeing a lot here, you get to choose which one of them is. So the odds of it coming up on both dice simultaneously is 1 in 36. And then if you've got rerolls, then the odds get better and better and better. So you sort of like use that to try to figure out, you know, statistically what the best things are. And the math part of it is relatively straight up. The question's always like, is it worth spending an action doing this? I don't know. I need more experience to sort of figure out what that is. And the big thing is what kind of actual structures in my lines make sense. You can see here, I had to deal with the fact that a lot of the vermin here got past my front line early on, and their thrower started with the ball because I think the kickoff went poorly, if I recall correctly. So I had to do a lot of cleaning up of the guys that had run behind, but I'd knocked out a few of them. I think they've got 1 or 2 people that are actually completely like actually injured and taken out of the game. I'm not sure there. Oh, they got a turnover. And that's the thing. The AI, I find, is quite prone to turnovers. They do a lot of risky dodges early on, and so things tend to fall down quite a bit. Here, I'm making a move. The thrower has been isolated at this point. I've been able to sort of beat my way through their front line and get to the thrower. Part of the problem is, at this point, they've already got 1 point on the board, and I don't score very quickly. So even if I get this ball, and I might score a touchdown, the problem is, can I score 2 and actually come out ahead in the game? And that seems relatively unlikely, but at this point, I'm willing to take the draw this early in my career. I figure I'm going to play through the season as the AI, or versus the AI, to figure things out. And then, yeah, I've got a real life friend who's played a lot of Blood Bowl, so I'm gonna see if he might be interested. And I've got a few other buddies, and certainly plenty of people on Twitter are now offering their assistance. Of course, the problem is I'm going to be a little bit busy this week. Hopefully, I'll be able to cram in enough before the tournament, because I definitely don't want to make a bad showing. Some people last time around may have not put in a substantial amount of practice, and, you know, it showed. And some people were kind of upset by it, like, how dare you play this game, and, like, dishonor us with the fact that you hadn't put in any effort. And I think, you know, that was a little bit of a strong reaction to that sort of thing. But at the same time, I personally want to try to put in my best showing. I don't have high hopes, especially against the people who have played before. I believe the last tournament was won actually by Crendor and the amazing Little Skittles. Taste the Rainbow, or Brings the Rainbow? Little Skittles, anyway, is the name of his little character that was just unbelievable throughout the entire tournament. I think it came down to Crendor and Total Biscuit, and what a match. And those are two that people I'm definitely a little bit more nervous about. Who else made the finals, or the actual tournament? I know Dodger did, and so if I can dodge her, that would, or at least early on, that would be good. I'm hoping that whoever I get paired up against early is not like a powerhouse of the game. So, because my fear is we're going to start the tournament, and in the very first game, I'll be paired up against an experienced player playing a bruising team, and half my team is going to have their hips broken or something like that, and then I'll basically be out of the running for the rest of the tournament and have a really hard time. Although, as I say that, if I recall correctly, that's what happened to Dodger. Her very first game, she was paired up against Total Biscuit in the round robin, and she was playing the Amazons versus Total Biscuit's Chaos Dwarves, which are super tanky, and she just got like half her team torn apart. But apparently, she rebuilt herself to get to get the actual finals tournament, the playoffs. That's the word I'm looking for. The playoffs. She got to the playoffs. So that clearly goes to show that she's got some skills there. So I don't want to meet her either. I don't know much about anyone else in terms of their skills. So I'm just going to go in assuming everyone else is much, much better than I am. And big part of the problem here, what you're seeing is I'm playing, there we go, there's my touchdown. I've got 4 minutes per round, per turn to make my decisions. And frankly, there's been a few times where I've, brought it down to the last 20 seconds before locking in my move. Well, I think last year, that's what they had as well. They had 4-minute rounds. And the problem is some of the games, especially when you're talking about a multiplayer situation, both players taking a fair amount of time and want to think and be super competitive, some of the games really went long. Like some of the matches were 2 hours or more. And that's not counting all the prep time ahead of time to make sure that, all the Skype audio is fine and all that kind of stuff. So as a result, the matches took long to play, were a little bit tedious to watch, but also were very, very hard to schedule. So what's happening this time is we're playing speed bowl rules, 45 seconds per turn. And since I'm someone who, I don't have the pattern recognition, right? Like one of the reasons computers are not good at Go. If you don't know, Go is like super checkers or super chess or something like that. Enough said, right? But computers are super good at checkers. That's solved. And computers have gotten really, really, really good at chess. But computers are still not good at Go, because Go is mostly about sort of like pattern recognition and different things like that. And computer AI is still, that's not something they can really do. They can't really brute force it the same way. And anyway, I think that's what this is going to come down to, especially with like the formations, is being able to do the quick pattern recognition of, okay, I've got a dude here and here and here. If I move a guy here, then I'll be in a position to gang up on people and do double blocks and all these like very highly tactical moves that right now I'm still having to decode. I'm having to look and be like, okay, if you're here and I'm here and I move a guy here, okay, and I've got a reroll, which means my odds are pretty good. Like nobody got time for that. So that's what I'm really concerned about is people who, even if they're not, in a straight up competition with more time, if they weren't super strong, if they just have enough experience that they've got a lot of the pattern recognition down and can just go to the flow, because everyone's going to be making a mistake in those time pressures. But if they can minimize the sort of like gross errors that way, that's what it's really, really going to come down to. But it means as a viewer, you guys should have a great time, because it's going to be craziness, great pacing, lots of just like go for it, smash people's teeth in, and all sorts of awesome stuff like that. Anyway, that's probably all I want to talk about in terms of the tournament and the background of this game. I could turn around here and talk about more of the specifics. Looks like it's my turn here, although I'm most of the way through my turn at this point. Looks like, again, the other team does have the ball, because I did kick to them because of the touchdown. And I did spend some amount of time here being like, okay, well, maybe I can get some injuries. At the end of the game, some of your players get things called star player points, and it's basically experience points. They can level up and get new abilities. They're very, very, very awesome. One of your players every game is picked as the MVP. It's completely at random. That person gets 5, which is a lot. It's a lot of points. You also get, I think, 3 if you score a touchdown, and I think 2 if you injure someone. I might be getting it wrong. I think you get 2 if you complete a pass, which is probably not something I'm ever going to do as the Orcs. I can't recall. So anyway, I think at this point I was like, okay, it's probably just a tie. See, there you go. The AI just tried to run through some of my guys, and they failed to dodge, so I just knocked them down, and there was a turnover. So yeah, I figured, okay, I'll probably have to settle for a tie. And so what I'm going to do is see if I can't inflict a few more injuries. The problem with injuring, especially if someone's on the ground, if you knock them down, there's a chance you'll inflict an injury. But then once you're on the ground, you can actually start to foul them. You just like walk over there and stomp on their face. You can only do that once per turn, I think. But the downside is sometimes the ref catches you. If you roll doubles on the roll, then the ref catches you and throws you out of the game. But at this point, I was like, well, there's no downside to being thrown out of the game. It's going to be a tie no matter what. But as it turns out, you'll see I actually get very close here. That if I had focused slightly more, I would have been able to score a touchdown and go for the win. But it comes down to I didn't realize that I was in a position to be able to do that, and I should have played it slightly more aggressively here. And those are the little things that I think that even playing against the AI, I'm going to figure out. I definitely want to move to versus humans pretty soon, but it's just like understanding the speed at which you can go. And I guess, you know, I could count tiles on the board and do different things, but still figuring that out. So I've known about Blood Bowl for years and years. Like, I played my first match, like, oh god, over 10 years ago. But in terms of actual play, I don't have a ton there. So, like, when we play Dungeons & Dragons, we actually use Blood Bowl figures as some of the figurines for some of the monsters. The orcs in particular tend to make a lot of appearances. So I have a lot of indirect experience with it in a very, very weird way. So hopefully we'll do okay. But the rules are beautiful right now. So this is the Blood Bowl Chaos Edition that is being played. That is the latest version of the base edition of Blood Bowl, which, if you're watching this video right now, as I'm recording it, is currently 80% off. So make sure to check Steam. It goes on sale quite frequently, and take a look at that. It's pretty good for that. They are working. There's a Blood Bowl 2 that is starting to be teased. We've gotten some screenshots out. It probably won't be out for a while yet, and this game is still definitely a great purchase. The rule set is going to be exactly the same one way or another. So if you want to get good at it, do it. It's got a great multiplayer online community, online leagues, which is what you want to do. You want to play against human beings if you can do it. So playing online is really strong and definitely worth it. So if you can pick it up for on sale, hugely recommend this game. Massively recommend it. And even if you can't, there's massive amounts of replay value in this. Huge tactics play. Anyway, so now I'm finally closing in on the thrall, and this is the point where I'm like, oh crap, could I get something done? I'm not sure. I have one more turn after this one. This is my 15th turn. Oh yeah, there was actually a weird hang on their turn. Okay, so I'd finished my turn, and I'm waiting for the AI to finish their move, and nothing is happening at this point. I'm like trying to switch camera modes to see if anything will happen. No. Because yeah, normally I like to watch everything from this top view, but there is a cinematic view, which is actually quite helpful potentially to follow the AI. But yeah, nothing is happening, and I'm sure it's crashed, and anyway, at some point it'll unstick, and then you'll see I get so very, very, very close. I think actually if I'd played out my last turn in a different order, I would have been able to win. But as it was, I ended up like 1, maybe 2 tiles short of the end zone with the ball in possession, which is just like, oh my god. I'm actually going to watch this a little bit more carefully and see if there's anything you could do. Yeah, I'm like, I'm still stuck. Nothing is happening. I think the AI was like sitting here trying to do some like crazy pathfind, try to find some solution to some problem, because ultimately what happens, they finally move someone. Oh, there we go. It's my turn now. Yeah, they try to move someone. They do a dodge and it ends. I was like, oh, all right, my turn now. I don't know, or maybe they ran out of time. I wasn't paying attention right this second. So yeah, I've got the ball thrower, and I'm like, all right, so I'm gonna move one guy up here, and then I'll be able to attack him. And first of all, this is right here. I think using this blitz, I think, was the problem. First, I thought that it was a going to be a double die, which it wasn't. But I think because I used a blitz, it meant that I couldn't do a handoff, or maybe it's because the ball went to the blitzer, who, like, he's the one that happened to grab the ball. The ball bounced to him. So I can run as far as I can, and then that's it. I'm short. I don't have the possibility. I don't have the option of making a pass, and I also don't believe I have the option of doing a handoff, which would have been the thing to do potentially here to try to get a little bit more movement. But I think that if I'd attacked with someone else first, or done things in a slightly different order, there would have been possible for me to pick up the ball and run to the end zone. Maybe there wasn't. Certainly if I just played the previous round a little bit more aggressively, I think I would have been able to do it. But anyway, that is the end of the game. Yeah, it is great. Lots of replay value here, and lots of good competition if you're into a strategic, tactical games. Hell, get the board game. Play with friends in real life. I know, we don't talk about that very often, but it's possible. Anyway, that is the end of the game. The Brussels Stouts run is over for this particular match, but I will be playing a lot more. And since I am going to be playing and practicing, I may end up doing some videos, so keep an eye out for those. See you next time, folks.